Have you ever wondered how to apply ancient wisdom to the chaos of the modern world? Can the thoughts of a Roman emperor bring serenity and purpose to your life? Stay with me and discover how Marcus Aurelius Meditations can transform your way of thinking and acting. Marcus Aurelius, one of the last 5 good emperors of Rome, left a valuable legacy in his Meditations. This work is a personal guide to reflections and mental exercises deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. Today, we'll explore how you can use these teachings to achieve temperance, resilience, and happiness amid everyday challenges. 1. Stoicism and Meditations. A quick context. Imagine a man surrounded by the weight of the world, where each decision is a stone added to the pile of responsibilities. This was Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who ruled wisely, but who, in his most private hours, sought refuge in the simplicity of a notebook. There, without adornment or pretension, he recorded thoughts that we now know as his Meditations. They were not intended for the public, but for oneself, as an exercise in alignment between mind and soul. Stoicism, the philosophy that guided his life, emerges as a lighthouse that guides through the storms. Born from the brilliant mind of Zeno of Citium, this philosophical system taught that true happiness does not come from external achievements, but from inner peace. For Marco, this meant seeing life as a dance between the inevitable and what is within our reach. This was not about resignation, but about elegant resistance. Perhaps the greatest merit of Meditations is the clarity with which they present such profound ideas. There is no unnecessary sophistication, just the echo of a mind seeking balance. Marco speaks of the transitory nature of life, like a poet who sees beauty even in the fallen leaves of autumn. Every word seems charged with intent, as if he is simultaneously trying to understand and comfort himself. It is curious to think how a man with so much power dedicated himself to practicing humility. He recognized that his actions, even the greatest, were no more than a grain of sand in the vast desert of time. Still, there was nobility in doing your part righteously. For him, every moment offered a chance to act virtuously, even when no one was looking. When reading his reflections, we are transported to an intimate space where an emperor's dilemmas become universal, who has never struggled with the urge to react impulsively, who has never needed to remember that it is possible to find serenity in the midst of chaos. Marcus Aurelius, with his honest and almost melancholic writing, reminds us that we are not alone in these battles. Through his writings, he presents us with Stoicism as an antidote to modern concerns. Today's urgency, marked by incessant notifications and excessive expectations, echoes the challenges of the past. The Meditations invite us to slow down, look inside, and look for what really matters. 2. Why are Meditations still relevant today? If Marcus Aurelius's Meditations still resonate deeply, it is because they speak of something essential, our shared humanity. Although written centuries ago, his ideas find fertile ground in a world that, although modern, continues to be plagued by similar concerns. The relevance of this text lies in its ability to offer answers to timeless questions, those that accompany us regardless of the era in which we live. Marco invites us to embrace simplicity, to find contentment in the little things. He believed that life was not made of grandiose events, but of discrete moments that, when added together, define who we are. In the rush of the contemporary world, where every minute is taken up by distractions, this message sounds almost like a whisper of wisdom amidst the noise. The concept of amor fati, or love of destiny, is a clear example of this wisdom. It's not about passive resignation, but about embracing circumstances with active acceptance. Marco reminds us that there is a singular beauty in everything that happens, even what at first glance appears to be adversity. This frees us from the suffering that comes with resisting what we cannot change. Furthermore, he challenges us to focus on the present. Stop living in the past or worrying about the future. It seems to whisper on every page. It is in this now that power lies, and by focusing our energy on the present moment, we can face difficulties with more clarity and balance. Marco knew that the future was uncertain, and that the only certainty was the present. When reflecting on the brevity of life, Marco Aurelio did not despair, but found purpose. Each day, no matter how routine, carried an opportunity to act with integrity. He saw life as a flowing river where resisting the current was futile. However, as I flowed with it, I discovered harmony and serenity. The strength of the Meditations lies in their universality. Despite being written by an emperor, the issues addressed are as human as they are timeless. When we turn to them, we find a kind of mirror, reflecting our own concerns and offering us the possibility of transforming them into wisdom. Marco Aurelio does not give us ready-made answers but paths, and by following them, we find a little more of ourselves. 3. How to read the Meditations. Reading. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is like opening a door to an intimate dialogue with a thinker whose voice resonates through the centuries. It's not just a read, it is an experience that demands commitment, an invitation to delve into the depths of ideas that are as simple as they are transformative. But how, after all, should we approach this text? Perhaps the answer lies in the intention with which we approach it, as someone looking not just for words, but for the essence of a more conscious life. Marco did not write to impress, but to remind himself of who he was and who he wanted to be. Therefore, when reading his words, it is important to pause, reflect, and allow the meaning to reveal itself little by little. Like a painter looking at a canvas, we need to look beyond the lines to capture the landscape they suggest. Intentionally reading the Meditations invites us to not only understand what is written, but to explore what it awakens within us. There is a special beauty in treating these reflections as if they were letters from a distant friend, written to guide us in moments of doubt. Each phrase carries an invitation to question our own beliefs, to reevaluate the judgments we make, and thus we transform from mere readers into active participants in this philosophical dialogue. One way to deepen this experience is to use the Meditations as a mirror to our own lives. When we finish a passage, we can ask ourselves, how does this apply to what I'm facing today? This reflection exercise transforms what could be just a text into a practical guide, a compass that points to a place where serenity and purpose coexist. And it's not just about reading. Marco Aurelio invites us to interact with his ideas, to record our own reflections. Maybe that means picking up a notebook and, alongside your words, writing ours. Creating this habit is like planting seeds in fertile soil. Over time, we will see the fruits in the form of clarity and resilience. Reading with intention is, above all, an act of attention. It's resisting the temptation to rush and instead allowing each word to sink in. And carefully, just as one savors a rare wine, the Meditations should be savored slowly, allowing their flavors and nuances to reveal their layers. This process is transformative because it does not limit us to understanding only Marcus Aurelius's mind, but helps us understand our own. With each page, we get a little closer to the essence of what it means to live with purpose, courage, and acceptance. And in the end, we realized that the true objective was not just to read, but to learn to live more fully. 4. Practical exercises inspired by Meditations. Applying the teachings of the Meditations in everyday life is like bringing the wisdom of an ancient philosopher to walk alongside us. It is not a task that demands grandeur, but a discreet, almost invisible effort that slowly shapes our perspective and transforms us. Among the most profound practices that Marcus Aurelius suggests, perhaps none is as powerful as contemplating mortality. Thinking about death may seem dark, but for Marco, it was a source of clarity. It reminds us that each day is a gift, something that should not be taken for granted. When we reflect on the finiteness of life, we learn to value moments, no matter how small they may seem. This practice challenges us to act today, to live fully, without postponing what really matters. Another practice that emerges from his reflections is the art of separating what is under our control from what is not. In a world full of uncertainty, this skill is like a safe haven in the midst of the storm. When we list our problems and classify them, we realize that many of the weights we carry are unnecessary. Freeing yourself from this burden is a relief that can only be found when we understand what is really in our hands. With each Marco teaching, we find an opportunity for growth. He encourages us to start the day with a clear intention, like an artist drawing up the first sketches of a work. Planning what we want to be and how we want to act gives us direction, a common thread that guides us through the chaos. At the same time, he invites us to end the day with a balance. Reflecting on what we learned, where we went wrong and how we can improve is an act of humility and courage. It's as if we are adjusting the course of a ship, ensuring that despite the storms, we continue to move towards what is meaningful. These practices, although simple, have a profound impact. They teach us to live with more presence, to respond to challenges with resilience, and to find beauty even in difficult times. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that no matter how complex the world seems, wisdom lies in the little things, in a clear thought, in a virtuous action, in a moment of gratitude. In the end, these practices are not just mental exercises. They are invitations to a silent transformation, a change that begins within us and is slowly reflected in the world around us. Marcus Aurelius does not ask us for perfection, but for consistency. And it is in this daily effort that we find not only philosophy, but the art of living itself. 5 key lessons from Meditations for personal growth. When it comes to applying Stoicism to human relationships, Marcus Aurelius offers us insights that transcend time. His words, even intended for himself, resonate as timeless advice on how to live in harmony with others. The philosopher emperor understood that human beings are, above all, a social creature, and that our interactions, however challenging they may be, are an essential part of life. He reminds us that each person we meet carries their own internal struggle, their fears and hopes, often invisible to other people's eyes. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate patience and empathy. When someone acts rudely or unfairly, Marcus suggests we should remember that these actions often reflect ignorance or suffering rather than a genuine intention to harm. This perspective, far from being an excuse for the mistakes of others, is a call to understanding. The idea of forgiving other people's mistakes does not mean ignoring them, but recognizing them without allowing them to destroy our inner peace. For Marcus Aurelius, each of us has a role in the great theater of existence, and understanding this helps us to deal with everyday conflicts more lightly. After all, other people's failures, like our own, are part of human learning. One of the most striking lessons from his Meditations is that we should not allow other people's actions to divert us from our path. He compares the mind to a fortress that can only be invaded if we allow it. When we maintain our serenity and act with virtue, even in the face of adversity, we are practicing true Stoicism. However, Stoicism is not a philosophy of isolation. Marcus Aurelius encourages cooperation and kindness, seeing them as a natural extension of our humanity. He knew that just as members of the same body work together, individuals in society also need to collaborate to achieve the greater good. This vision inspires us to seek solutions instead of fueling conflicts, to build bridges instead of building walls. At the same time, Marcus warns us against the danger of becoming excessively dependent on other people's approval. He insists that we must act in accordance with our own values and principles, even if it means facing criticism. This independence of spirit is essential to maintaining our integrity and living authentically. Ultimately, Marcus' reflections on human relationships challenge us to be the best version of ourselves. It's not about being perfect or always getting it right, but about striving to treat others with dignity and respect, even when we face challenges. This effort, however small it may seem, has the power to transform our interactions and, ultimately, our lives. 6. Hypothetical stories. Living like. Marcus Aurelius' resilience is one of the most valued virtues in Stoicism, and Marcus Aurelius treats it as an essential skill for navigating the storms of life. In his Meditations, he invites us to see obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities to grow. This change of perspective, simple in its essence, has the power to completely transform the way we face challenges. For Marco, every difficulty we face is a test, a chance to demonstrate courage, patience, and wisdom. He uses the metaphor of a fire that consumes everything thrown at it, transforming even the harshest materials into heat and light. This powerful image inspires us to adopt a similar stance in the face of adversity, seeing it as fuel for our inner strength. However, resilience is not something that comes out of nowhere. It is built through daily practice, through conscious effort to cultivate a balanced mind. Marco suggests that we should prepare for challenges before they arise, strengthening our resolve through reflection and discipline. Just as an athlete trains to be ready for competition, we can also prepare ourselves for life's inevitable difficulties. One of the most effective tools for this is the practice of negative visualization, a Stoic technique that involves imagining possible adverse scenarios. Although it may feel uncomfortable, this practice helps us develop a resilient mindset, reducing the emotional impact when these scenarios become reality. By facing our worries in a controlled way, we learn to deal with them with more calm and confidence. Furthermore, Marco encourages us to seek meaning in difficulties. He believes that challenges are not only inevitable, but necessary for our growth. It is through struggles that we discover our inner strength and learn to adapt. This vision reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is something to be gained, a lesson to be learned. Another important aspect of resilience is the ability to accept what we cannot change. Marco Aurelio insists that we should focus our energies on what is within our reach, instead of wasting them resisting the inevitable. This acceptance, far from being a surrender, is an act of wisdom, allowing us to focus on what really matters. Finally, he challenges us to cultivate gratitude, even in the most difficult circumstances. By recognizing what we have, rather than lamenting what we lack, we strengthen our ability to face challenges with optimism and determination. This practice reminds us that no matter the difficulties, there is always something to be grateful for. Resilience, as Marcus Aurelius describes, it is not just a skill, but a way of life. It is a way of transforming adversity into stepping stones to growth, of finding strength in weaknesses, and of embracing life in all its complexity. By practicing it, we discover not only how to overcome challenges, but how to live fully and meaningfully. 7. Practical applications in daily life. The virtue of temperance, so central to Stoicism, is a delicate art, a choreography between desire and reason. Marco Aurelio saw in it a key to freedom, since for him, being a slave to passions meant giving up control over oneself. Temperance is the balance between wanting and needing, a skill that transforms excesses into harmony. When we reflect on what we really need, we find a space of clarity. It's not about giving up pleasures, but about distinguishing between those that nourish the soul and those that only distract. Marco invites us to look at our desires with a critical, almost clinical eye, to understand if they serve a purpose or if they trap us in an endless cycle. This analysis leads us to a simpler, but no less rich life. In everyday life, practicing temperance can seem like a challenge. We live surrounded by stimuli that encourage us to excess, more consumption, more status, more recognition. Marco, however, teaches us that true satisfaction lies in appreciating what we already have. This idea, almost subversive in its simplicity, makes us realize that enough is, most of the time, more than enough. It is important to highlight that temperance is not limited to restraint. It also involves the ability to enjoy pleasures fully, without guilt or remorse. When we allow ourselves to savor a meal or enjoy a moment of leisure, we do so with presence and gratitude, rather than anxiety or haste. Thus, temperance teaches us to be fully present in the now, extracting the most from each experience. Marco also highlights the importance of cultivating an orderly mind. For him, temperance begins within us, in the way we organize our thoughts and emotions. When we discipline our mind, we find greater clarity to make decisions that reflect our values. This practice, although subtle, has a profound impact as it transforms not only our actions, but also the way we perceive the world. There is a special beauty in realizing that temperance is not an isolated act, but an ongoing practice. Every choice we make, whether it's about food, money, or time, is an opportunity to exercise this virtue. It's like sharpening a blade. The more we use it, the more effective it becomes. And over time, temperance stops being a conscious effort and becomes a habit, second nature. Stoicism reminds us that temperance is not just an ideal, but a practical tool for navigating the complexities of modern life. When we choose moderation over excess, we find a freedom that no material possession can offer. This freedom, in turn, allows us to live more fully and authentically in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. 8. Connections with other Stoic thinkers. The practice of gratitude, for Marcus Aurelius, is more than a simple formality. It is an exercise that connects us with what is essential. In a world full of distractions and demands, stopping to recognize what we have is an act of rebellion, a way of redirecting our attention to what really matters. He teaches us that even in the most difficult circumstances, there is something we can be grateful for. Being grateful, however, does not mean ignoring difficulties. Marco recognized life's challenges, but saw them as an opportunity to grow. When we train ourselves to find something positive in every situation, no matter how small, we are strengthening our resilience. It's as if we were cultivating an internal garden, where each small gesture of gratitude plants a new seed of hope and optimism. Practicing gratitude in your everyday life is a simple but powerful act. Maybe this means starting or ending the day by reflecting on what brought us joy or relief. These small pauses, like moments of deep breathing, help us re-center and find balance. And over time, gratitude stops being a conscious effort and becomes a natural state of being. Marco also teaches us to be grateful, not just for the good things, but for the lessons that come from adversity. He believed that challenges shape us, making us stronger and wiser. This vision invites us to look at difficulties with a new perspective, seeing in them not only obstacles, but also opportunities for learning. At the same time, gratitude connects us with others. When we recognize the contributions of those around us, we strengthen the bonds that unite us. This act of recognition, however small it may seem, has the power to transform relationships and create a network of mutual support. Marco understood that no man is an island and that gratitude is the bridge that connects us to each other. Finally, practicing gratitude helps us combat the chronic dissatisfaction that often characterizes modern life. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we learn to value what we have. This simple shift in perspective can bring a deep sense of peace and contentment, something that no material possession can offer. Marcus Aurelius, in his wisdom, reminds us that gratitude is both a choice and a practice. It's not something that just happens. It's something we cultivate day after day, and in doing so, we discover that true wealth is not in what we own, but in what we appreciate. Thus, gratitude becomes not just a virtue, but a path to a fuller and more meaningful life. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations are a timeless guide to the search for wisdom, serenity, and personal growth. Incorporating these teachings into your daily life can help you face challenges with more resilience and purpose. If you liked this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and activate the bell for more Stoic reflections. Until the next video.